You're listening to Vaquero News.
Good morning, Vaqueros. It is 9 a.m. Monday, November 16th, 2020, and welcome to this week's newscast. I am Victor Ramirez, and we hope you had a safe and restful weekend. Starting out the newscast, reporter Justin Elizalde spoke with a UTRGV political science associate professor on insight on the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election.
President Donald Trump will not concede the election to President-elect Joe Biden, instead calling for recounts in swing states and claiming voter fraud. In a news release from Trump via his campaign November 7th, he vows to take legal action against the results. Quote, beginning November 9th, our campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and the rightful winner is seated. Trump and his campaign team have cited mail-in voter fraud in swing states such as Georgia and Pennsylvania as reasons to recount the ballots. Political science associate professor Natasha Alton McNeely says the president's statements add to public doubt in the election process. McNeely also adds the coronavirus pandemic led to an increase in mail-in ballots from voters who feared catching the virus, which caused a delay in election results.
People realizing that, oh, wow, this is taking forever. And then with our current president infusing a lot of doubt in the credibility of the process, that is just creating this sort of powder keg of tension among the electorate.
McNeely also adds President Trump's statements at the Republican National Headquarters in Arlington, Virginia on Election Day morning, quote, losing is very hard, shows the president did not plan for a loss.
Right, that he actually hadn't written a concession speech because he had never anticipated that he would have to concede.
McNeely says Trump is not technically required to concede, but it has been a norm observed by previous incumbent presidents who have lost re-election. She explains Trump's legal team would have to appeal their case to the Supreme Court to overturn the election as they run out of options.
But it would also be very extreme for the Supreme Court to just overturn the result of the election. So to essentially agree that what has appeared to be validated votes are no longer valid.
For more on this story, visit UTRGVradio.com. For Vaquero News, I'm Justin Elizalde.
In this year's presidential election, there were increases in registered voters across two major Rio Grande Valley counties. Cameron County saw an increase of registered voters and ballot cast in the 2020 presidential election compared to 2016. According to the Cameron County Elections website, during the 2016 presidential election, there were 197,726 registered voters. Of those, 47.39% of people voted. In this year's election, there were 218,910 registered voters in the county, in which 52.89% cast the ballot. Cameron County Elections Administrator Remy Garza says the increase of voters hopefully means that people are going to vote in higher numbers than they have in the past.
Each election cycle for the past 4 years, we've seen a higher level of participation when you compare them to similar elections from different election cycles. For example, in 2016, we had a total ballots cast of 93,716, which was our high point up until that time. So I'm hopeful that for the 2022 election, we're going to see a higher number than the 80,000 that participated in 2018.
According to Garza, Cameron County received 9,940 mail-in ballots, the most the county has ever received. Vaquero Radio contacted Hidalgo County Elections Administrator Yvonne Ramon, but as of this broadcast, she was unavailable for an interview. However, according to the Hidalgo County Elections website, there was also an increase of registered voters and ballot cast in the 2020 presidential election. In Hidalgo County, during the 2016 presidential election, there were 338,990 registered voters. Of those, 51.97% of people voted. In this year's election, there were 392,604 registered voters in the county, in which 56.70% cast a ballot. For more election coverage, visit UTRGVradio.com. This is Victor Ramirez for Vaquero News. Student Activities hosted its Distinguished Speaker Series event this weekend with its second guest. Reporter Justin Elizalde tells us about the night.
Members of the UTRGV campus community logged onto Zoom last Saturday for an evening with Anderson Cooper as part of the Distinguished Speaker Series. Communication Associate Professor Ajuri Egbesi moderated the evening virtually from her office on the Edinburgh campus as Cooper spoke from his office in New York City. Cooper talks about his experience with the 2020 elections, specifically referencing President Donald Trump's claims of voter fraud and the attention the claims have gotten through social media.
What they're actually presenting in court is very different than what people are talking about on social media, because that social media stuff is just not real.
According to Cooper, he enjoyed military history at a young age, studying political science in college. Cooper planned to join the military, but couldn't as a gay male, so he looked to alternatives which drew him to journalism.
And then I realized all the stuff that I really loved, which was going to some faraway place and immersing myself in a different culture and learning about people and talking to people. I realized I can do that as a reporter.
Cooper says he has always been openly gay to his family, friends, and coworkers, but had not come out publicly as his work took him to nations where LGBTQ citizens were killed or hurt. When he did make a public statement, he says his security was immediately increased.
Suddenly I was in Iraq after making the announcement, and I suddenly had to have a huge security detail.
The veteran journalist gives a piece of advice to the audience towards the end of the evening.
But I do think it's important to be a human being when you're reporting.
Mass Communications senior Colleen de Guzman, who is also a feature reporter for The Monitor, says she is proud UTRGV brings people like Cooper to speak to students. As an aspiring journalist, Cooper's advice on staying human stood out to her.
I can react too. I don't have to be completely numb. I don't have to act numb to do my job well. I can respond.
The Distinguished Speaker Series will welcome actor Terry Crews in the new year. For more information, visit the Student Activities V-Link page. For Vaquero News, I'm Justin Elizalde.
A magazine at UTRGV received national recognition. Reporter Rodolfo Alvarado tells us more.
UTRGV's Gallery magazine placed in several categories in the Columbia Scholastic Press Association's 37th Gold Circle Awards earlier this month. 4 UTRGV student submissions through the magazine were selected as the winners. The CSPA awards Gold Circles to recognize superior work by student journalists and include 164 different categories for students to enter for. Gallery publishes annually and showcases the talent and creativity of different UTRGV students. The Gallery staff is made up of students taking the English 3350 class. One of the Golden Circle Awards was given for the work of Magical Realism, a comic written by Jacob Villanueva and illustrated by Lourdes Garcia. The comic was awarded in the experimental fiction and humor categories. English senior Villanueva recalls the emotions that he and Lourdes had when they found out about their victory.
I was pretty happy and proud, not just for me, but for the school, There's a lot of people who have a lot of talent here at this school, but since we're a smaller school and we tend to be far away from any other major city, sometimes we get overlooked.
For the complete list of UTRGV student winners, visit utrgvradio.com. Faculty advisor for Gallery and a creative writing associate professor, Britt Haraway, explains the importance that an outlet such as the magazine plays to creators at UTRGV.
We serve the artistic and literary communities here. A magazine like Gallery is a great first step for a lot of student artists and writers. It also is celebrating that for literary and the art community. Gallery can be a great way to show what we're doing.
To learn more about Gallery or for submissions, visit gallery.submittable.com/submit. This is Rodolfo Alvarado for Vaquero News.
And McClain goes up and throws down a monster dunk. That fires up the UTRGV Fieldhouse.
And now time for Vaquero Sports.
Sports reporter Luis Rubio gives us a preview on this upcoming UTRGV men's basketball season.
As the 2020-2021 season is right around the corner, UTRGV men's basketball is looking to take the next step in their success with an opening day matchup at number 19, University of Texas, on November 25th. In an off-season that has seen members of the team report positive cases of COVID-19, head coach Lou Hill is eager to get back on the basketball court and return to a sense of normalcy.
Just to play, practice every day, and just game plan for each practice. And we're starting to game plan for Texas a little bit, so it's exciting.
Having positive cases of COVID-19 within the program has presented its challenges, such as practicing without a full team. Coach Hill explains that although the situation is unfortunate, the utmost precaution and care is taken, but practice must still go on.
Some days you have more young men than others. Some days you don't practice. Some days you do. So we could sit here and complain about the pandemic, or we could just go with the punches, right? And I decided with our guys, just go with the punches. Whatever that day brings you, that's what we do. We only could control what we could control.
Men's basketball, alongside the rest of the athletics department, must follow NCAA and UTRGV COVID-19 guidelines throughout the season. Although COVID-19 has limited how the team interacts off the court and develops chemistry, Coach Hill explains that having a veteran team with 13 returners eases the process.
Well, practicing it hasn't been as hard because we have a lot of veteran guys coming back off the court when we used to do a lot of things together as far as cooking out, taking them to different places, Top Golf, just to fellowship. That has hurt some, but with having a veteran team, it's made it a little easier than it would have been last year, for instance.
The team added 3 new players to the returning 13 after it lost Leslie Varner II, Isaiah Fontaine, and Jordan Jackson to graduation. For a complete roster, new additions to the staff, and schedule, visit utrgvradio.com. For Vaquero Radio, I'm Luis Rubio.
Luis Rubio also gives us a look into the 2020-2021 women's basketball season.
The 2020-2021 UTRGV women's basketball season is only 10 days away as they open up on the road against Texas Tech on November 25th after 8 months off the hardwood. In an off-season that has been marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, the entire program counts down the days to game day. Senior point guard Amara Graham shares her excitement for a safe return to the court.
With all the COVID stuff, it was so much uncertainty, not knowing whether we would even have a season, how the season would go. But now that, the schedule is out, we're 19 days away, I think it's very exciting right now. The jitters are coming. It's even more fun just to know we got a Big 12 opponent our first game. That's big for us.
Practicing and playing collegiate basketball is no small feat in the middle of a global pandemic. However, women's basketball, alongside the rest of the athletics department, must follow NCAA and UTRGV COVID-19 guidelines. Although other UTRGV athletics programs have had positive tests of COVID-19, UTRGV women's basketball, according to head coach Lane Lord, has not reported a positive test as of November 6th and will continue to knock on wood and follow protocol to keep it that way.
Definitely an adjustment period for all of us, but I'll tell you what, our players have been just unbelievable since they've been back. They've followed all the university protocols. They've been staying safe, and we've been able to have about 48 practices up to this point with the whole team without losing anybody at this point, and that's because they've done such a good job following the athletic protocols.
The team added 6 new players, a mix of incoming freshmen, transfer students from JUCO programs, and a Division I transfer. 6 players will not be returning to the program due to transferring to other universities or graduating, and 10 players have returned for another season with UTRGV women's basketball. At the end of the day, for both Coach Lord and Graham, they reiterated that the key to a successful season is to continue following COVID-19 protocols and power through what is about to be the strangest year of college basketball. For a complete roster, new additions to the staff, and schedule, visit utrgvradio.com. For Vaquero Radio, I'm Luis Rubio.
And now for this week's weather report. Today, Brownsville will be partly sunny with a high near of 77 degrees. Lowest Brownsville should be today is 64 degrees. Edinburgh will be mostly sunny with a high near of 78 degrees and north wind around 8 miles per hour. Lowest Edinburgh should be is 56 degrees. Throughout the week, Brownsville should be mostly sunny with clear skies with an average of 81 degrees. During the week, Edinburgh should also be expecting similar weather with average of 81 degrees as well. And that's it for your weekly weather report. We will see y'all here next week.
And now for this week's event calendar.
Vaquero Radio will host a roundtable discussion with UTRGV athletic members at 1 p.m. Wednesday via Facebook Live. Follow Vaquero Radio's social media platforms to learn more. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion and Dream Resource Center will host the People Series event with Marsha P. Johnson to learn about the legacy of being a Black trans activist. The event will start at noon Thursday via virtually. Visit VLink to learn more or to RSVP. Campus Activities Board will host a game of Among Us. The event will start at 6 p.m. Friday. According to V-Link, one must RSVP to participate and receive a Zoom link to join. If a student would like to be paired up with a friend, the participant must write down the other student's full name and the UTRGV email. And that's it for today's newscast. If you have any story ideas, send us an email to radio@utrgv.edu. Vaquero Radio is also mobile with the Radio FX app available for Android and Apple. Also, follow us on our social media platforms and visit our website for updates and much more. We will see you next Monday at 9 a.m. here on Vaquero Radio.
This has been Vaquero News.